I was sick of being sick of myself. um, there was a period in my life when I think I had so much like stress and angst that I had all of my ducks in a row because that's sort of the only way that I could function. But there was never any like calm or peace in my life that way. And I've sort of relaxed as I've gotten older. But then the more I relaxed, sort of the less like reliable and self reliable I became. And I was just, I think I started working with Vanessa when my son was about 6 months old. And motherhood just brought a whole host of different difficulties. I knew that I could do better, like for me, for my family, especially for my son. And I knew that like years of therapy off and on wasn't really getting me anywhere. And I knew that coaching was the answer. And I also knew that I could I knew that I could do a better job of staying organized and keeping my house clean and being on time to places and just being proud of the way that I show up in my relationships, in managing finances, all of those things. And I knew that if I had a coach that sort of helped me look at these things, that I could just like grow and change into the person that I really knew I could be. And I also knew, there were so many different coaches that I could have chosen from out there because I'm pretty familiar with the coaching world. It's like I could have had a marriage coach, I could have had a business coach, I could have had a financial coach. And I know that all of these things lead to the same sort of end. But I also knew that like the root problem was within me. So I knew that I needed to, like, if I work on my confidence or if I work on accepting myself and loving myself and just really getting to know myself, I knew that I could do better in all of these areas rather than getting a coach to focus on one specifically or each one. I knew that this was the key. Working with Vanessa was the key to sort of unlocking success in all the areas of my life. I think the biggest thing that I learned is that being the person that I want to be is actually fairly effortless. So all of these huge changes that like, when I first came to Vanessa, I sort of wanted like the checklist and I wasn't getting it and I wasn't getting it and I wasn't getting it. And I remember very clearly, it was week 10. I was like, oh, I get it. I don't need a checklist. Like, I don't have to check all of these things off or, like grade myself or decide where I'm going to put my effort necessarily to do all of the things that I want to be able to do. And so now, instead of, you know, making these huge amounts of effort and lists and, bullet journaling and all of these things, I just wake up in the morning and I do sort of what feels natural and I accomplish so much more in my day. Like without even trying, I almost always accomplish more than I previously did. And man, the days that I decide like that I'm gonna try, I might be exhausted and like half hate myself at the end of the day, but I have also like totally blown myself away with what I was able to do. I think that the thing that has worked the best for me is just having Vanessa help me sort of have awareness of certain things. And, just drawing attention to things and having me observe them and become aware of them from a place like a compassionate place has really opened everything up to me because that really is where the effortless change happens, right? Like, I've really learned, and I learned this in really big ways at first, like guided by Vanessa, but now it's almost just become like a habit of, you know, okay, I'm just gonna observe this for a little while and just see what happens. And it's almost like, once I've observed it so many times, the behavior just kind of seems to change or disappear or, you know, it's like magic. It really is. So I'm not making an effort to be different. I'm just, it's really just the awareness piece. I have a completely different life. So it's funny because, my husband and I decided to go to like couples counseling, which I think is helpful. It was helpful, but we did it for, I don't know, probably 4 months. And then I coached for maybe about the same time with Vanessa, and nothing about my husband. We didn't talk about my husband. Maybe one time we talked about my husband and my relationship with him, but we don't argue anymore. I mean, rarely does that ever happen. And I know that like this is a lot is just because I'm showing up differently. So the other ways that my life is different is I have a lot more patience with other people, and I am so much more productive. So much more productive. I still get overwhelmed sometimes, but I can look at a space and instead of being overwhelmed and letting it stop me, be like, okay, I'm just going to get done what I can get done. And I'm going to focus. I'm going to take these 30 minutes to focus, and then I'll stop and move on to the next thing. And 9 times out of 10, I get done more than I thought that I probably could have gotten done. So that's really maybe one of the biggest things is the way that I use my time. And one of the reasons that I'm able to use my time so much more effectively is because the chatter in my mind is so much less. It's not even quieter, it's less. So there's so much less drama in my head. So I have time to do all of these other things that I always said, like, oh, I don't have any time for that. How do people have time for this? Now it's like, I have so much time. And I'm a mom. I'm 16 weeks pregnant, and I don't have time for everything that I want to do, but I have time for so many more things than previously I would have had. My confidence in myself and my ability to like make decisions and like determine how long something's going to take or how much I need of something is so much like I'm just tapped into it now. I'm tuned into it. So I would say that confidence allows me to be more flexible, and it just allows me to get so much more done because I know, okay, if I'm going to go, I got to go pick my son up, but I need to go to the grocery store. And I used to shy away from like, what if I'm late? Like I mean, fear used to stop me all the time. What if I'm late? And now it's like, well, you don't have to be late. Go to the grocery store. You can get what you can get. And then, when it's time to go, you just leave. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, I'm finished by the time I need to leave, or I have even extra time left over. So I think I used to underestimate myself all the time. And now I just give myself room to do what I can do and be who I can be and be flexible and compassionate with myself. And I think maybe not judging myself has also been a really big part of that, right? Because I used to, if I had this plan and this list and I'm going to do this, and this, and then I could only get through part of it, oh, it's a failure. And now it's like, great, I got that checked off my list, and I'll move these couple of things to another time, no big deal. And that has really allowed me to really, it just goes back to productivity. Like I'm so much more productive. I have more time to spend with my son. Yeah. And more time for self-care, things that I didn't do before, probably at all. Being a leader within my household. And I think through this coaching experience, I've not only realized that I can do it, but I've also realized that my life for my family is better when I do it because my husband is busy with the business. Like now I'm like, I can figure this out. So whereas before, again, fear has always stopped me. And it's like, well, I don't want to make a decision that my husband, hasn't, fully looked through and checked through and everything. And what I've realized is that if I do the research, let's say for investing, and I just say, hey, I did this, this, and this, and I'm making these decisions, he just says, okay. It's like, okay, he might ask some questions, but we end up being much better off. So the time piece has allowed me time to be able to do this, but then also like the confidence piece, has really given me sort of the will to step up and say, I'm capable of this and I'm going to do it. I'm going to try at least. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm at least going to try because I know this is best for my family. Of course, fear comes up. I think it's a natural human emotion. It's a natural sort of reaction to a lot of things. But I don't think I noticed or realized before, but I think fear used to sort of maybe be my baseline. Like it was always sort of an undertone, let's call it. Like every decision I made is, oh my gosh, what about this? And what about that? And, and so inaction ended up being very routine for me. But now I think I don't worry about failing near as much. And so the fear doesn't dictate what I do anymore. I'm just so much more peaceful and calm and maybe more clear-headed. And so when fear does come up, I think I'm sort of able to think through it a little differently. So I talked with Vanessa about wanting to make money, and it was probably 2 weeks later, my husband and his brother came back to me and they said, we want to start paying you for the work that you're doing. Okay. Which the money is shared, my husband and I, but it's still nice to feel like, these 3 days a week that you're giving to them, you get compensated for. And I also got my very first client while being coached by Vanessa. And I think that was probably like a tidbit coaching, like it was just a small part of a session, but it made such a big difference. I got off the call and I was like, I need to, text this person. And it was like probably in less than a week, the person had signed up to be my client. So I think I'm just going to go back to being more confident and being willing to take action and being willing to like fail forward, right? And learn from those failures and be okay with all of that, which I wasn't okay to do before, which means you're stuck in the same place, right? So I really started taking action after being coached by Vanessa. And yes, this had massive impact on my finances, or at least what I was contributing to my family. But at the same time, it has affected like my ability to keep my house clean. My house is so much cleaner. Cooking is really important to me because I like to have healthy meals for my family. And I had started sort of falling off the wagon and just calling my husband like, hey, can you just bring something home tonight? I'm really tired. And no, like now I cook almost every single night, and which just makes me feel really good. But so I think and maybe all of this comes down to self-care too, right? Like I take much better care of myself, so I'm able to spend energy doing these things. And that was something I was never able to put, and it's still hard, especially after becoming a mom. It's so hard to put yourself first, but I wasn't able to do it before. I put everybody before myself. And I probably had a hard time saying no to people. And now I'm able to look at my priorities when somebody asks me to do something and say, it just doesn't fit. I'm sorry. And I don't feel bad about it. I move on. It's an honest answer. And I feel good about that. And I feel good about honoring what I want. And in turn, I'm able to sort of reserve the energy that I do have for the things that are important to me. And I think that has made a huge impact. I really knew I needed a coach. I really knew that if I was going to be the person that I wanted to be, that I needed some guidance, and I needed somebody to help delve into my mind and figure out, just pull the pieces apart. So I went to the Life Coach School website, and like I said, I knew I could have chosen, a relationship coach or a business coach or a finance coach. But I really wanted just to focus on myself so that, you know, all of the areas of my life were impacted by this coaching experience. And so I just plugged in confidence in the search bar. And I knew that Vanessa was going to be my coach as soon as I saw her picture. I just was like, that's my coach. I don't think I even looked at her website. But yes, maybe it's like, I want what she's having. Like you can just tell that she's authentic in everything that she does and that she doesn't spend her days, you know, hiding like I was. I think that if I were going to tell anybody about her program, I would say, you know, it's like you just have to believe in the fairies and eventually the magic will happen. But you know, the belief, just the belief itself is going to make those steps towards the magic happen for you. And yeah, so that's the biggest, that may be the biggest thing. You just have to like sort of believe that the magic is there and do the work. And all of a sudden it's going to like hit you one day. You're going to realize what you've been doing without even knowing that you were doing it.